Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation. It's great to be here, and I think my presentation fits very well with two issues which were raised previously. One raised by you about Polanyi and the liberalization of capital and labor markets and how what is the result in actually inequality. And the other one which she mentioned, the relation economics and sozialka, and social issues, because at the end I will briefly present a model of social growth which we developed in the FES, which tries to reconcile these two fields. But I will start with the presentation of Germany and German economic development, and then about certain dimensions of this of the German model. I think it is particularly interesting because Germany is now considered a success story, and we are trying to export our model to other countries, particularly crisis countries in Europe. Actually, Germany's image of a success story is quite new. I remember very well that in the first half of the first decade of the century, between 2000 and 2006, Germany was called the sick man of Europe. It was considered a laggard with slow productivity growth and high unemployment. And only after 2006, interrupted by the big recession in the world, by global recession, Germany became again the model, the success story of relatively low unemployment and export successes. Actually, export successes were always a feature of German economic development. We never had a competitiveness problem as those who advocated the reforms thought. What are the possible explanations for the German success? Well, one is demand led. That is claimed as what famous German economist put it, Peter Bofinger, not our reforms saved us, it was China which saved us. That Germany actually has a range of export products, basically investment goods and luxury cars, which fits global demand, particularly in China. Well, our friend can confirm it very well. And it has nothing to do with low wages in Germany so much, but with the pattern. And the other way is, of course, the German low wages, and these are partly a result of the labor market reforms, partly of the restructuring of the German production network by relocating many labor-intensive production steps to Eastern Europe. There are two aspects I would like to dwell on a little bit more in detail. One is that, especially in Europe right now, but also this morning, there was a big debate about reindustrializing Russia, France, other countries, because it was said that manufacturing industry is the core of welfare and economic success. And Germany is considered as a particularly successful manufacturing country. That is certainly true to some extent, but one has to say that first, German manufacturing output is also highly volatile, that what could be seen in the big recession. And the funny thing is that the share of value added of manufacturing in Germany is relatively constant at about a quarter of total GDP. Employment declined rapidly. Germany lost 4 million jobs since 1991 in manufacturing. And actually, growth relies to a much larger extent on services. 80% of all the additional GDP which was accumulated in Germany since 1991 has been created in the service sector. That is because most of the employment increase is in the service sector. In the recession, you can also see that what happened was that in manufacturing, the decline was much deeper than in services. So service employment hardly declined, it declined in hours. It's a great green curve, but in employees it's continued to grow even during the recession, while in manufacturing the decline in hours was very steep, that's the red curve, and only in employment the decline was not so deep. That is the famous German job wonder, but that was because we had these short work agreements and a kind of very ingenious arrangements on enterprise level between works councils, employers and the state, which had kind of working hours accounts which would be accumulated during boom times and then run down during the recession. That has nothing to do with the reforms. That is really something very specific, and it's very good, obviously. Here you can see that actually we had, counted in persons, we had only a build-up in employment in the service sector. All others, the other two sectors declined, and if you look at it in hours, it's the same picture basically, or even worse. The dangerous stuff in Germany is that we have a very slow productivity growth in the service sector. We did a big study on that, and among all the countries we've compared with, basically France, Sweden, UK and US, and the EU average, Germany was the only one which had even a negative productivity growth in the service sector between 2000 and 2005. Actually, that was a result of the reforms, because the wages went down in the service sector so strongly. Probably more per head than per hour, but probably both, at least in real terms. So what did Germany reforms, which were often considered to be the major source or the major cause of Germany's success, what did they do? Well, first, there was actually some substantial change in the German economic system. We had unions lost a lot of their power, membership declined, also on the other side, in the Employers Association, collective bargaining became covered less people. The change in the taxation of mergers and acquisitions led to a disentangling of the German capital structure, and the welfare state was, of course, reduced. Then there was also a lot of privatization, telephone, postal services were privatized, and of course the famous labor market reforms of the agenda 2010. There you can see how that was a German private sector and the linkages between the different financial and industrial enterprises before 96 or in 96. And after the reforms, everything has disintegrated, and that made the corporatist governance of the German economy much more difficult, of course. What about the reforms? I have run a very rough analysis of developing some indicators, economic indicators before and after the reforms. And what is interesting to see is that actually the biggest success, which was always considered the biggest success, was of course the decline in unemployment. That is true, but on the other hand, you can see that the average number of hours worked did not increase very much. So what has happened was that the same numbers of hours worked were a little bit more or less were distributed among more people, and that was the major thing. Another interesting thing is that unit labor costs actually increased after the reform, which, let's say, the reform was about regaining competitiveness, among other things, and employment. But if unit labor costs increase, that means that productivity, and you can see that productivity growth declined. Another interesting thing is that export growth was actually higher before the reform than after the reform, which is also not, let's say, does not explain that we have a better competitiveness afterwards. What we have is a much higher export surplus, but that is obviously not due to the fact that export growth accelerated, but because domestic consumption stagnated. So the famous German export machine did not really become performing better because of the reforms. Only the domestic absorption became worse. What was the result? The result was Germany had the fastest rise of inequality within the OECD countries between until 2007. So real wages, as Rudolph already said, were stagnating, wage share was declining, the wage dispersion was growing, the rich were getting much richer, and the German savings glut occurred, meaning that German households, because especially the rich are saving much more than the poor, were saving more and more, while at the same time German government sector and to some extent the German corporate sector and to some extent the German government sector did not absorb these savings anymore by going into debt, because corporate sector had so many profits that it could finance most of its investment out of cash flow, and government policies, as you know, are directed towards fiscal balance. So if you look, the upper red curve is the German net monetary assets of households. They increased from 70% of GDP to over 120% of GDP. At the same time, the net debt position of the corporate sector, actually this should be go down to, or not, but I have switched it over so it's better, it's visible on the same way. The negative asset position of the government sector remained around 60%. It did not go up. And only the government increased its debt position from, but this is net. So it does not have to be the gross debt figures we usually see, but even in net terms it goes up from 10 to 50%. So it's the government which absorbs most of the savings, except, which is not in this chart, the rest of the world. Of course, we have built up a lot of, through our export services, our net foreign investment position a lot. So what is the alternative to this kind of policies? That is something what we call social growth, our concept for progressive economic policy. That means from the supply side, full employment, more people working, especially in providing what the society needs, like education, like healthcare, like care, and so on. Then we need productivity growth. These two, employment plus productivity, explain the supply side of growth. And we see that you can raise the productivity of the service sector with better human capital, with quality, but also if you really appreciate this kind of work more, which is not done in many sectors of the social services in Germany. And on this demand side, of course, a better distribution of income through higher wages and better tax policies, so that everybody can also participate in the consumption, not only in the production. We have run 2 studies in order to prove that this is macroeconomically feasible. And one study was done by Brockners and another by Rhine-Westphalian Institute of Economic Research, 2 well-known think tanks in Germany. And they have shown that you can expand social services, and at the same time you grow, you create employment, you create GDP increases, goes partly through the government channel, but also partly through the market channel, because the people who get employed in the social sector, they have of course demand for the private manufacturing and service sector too. So we have a virtuous circle of employment and growth, which is at the same time benefiting the social needs of the society. Thank you.
So, social services are not costs. You invest in them and you get productive investment and you get employment. Okay, the floor, the ball is in your court.
Thank you very much. It's a very good topic. And just as we talked last time in Shanghai, you mentioned that I think there's a new concept of idea of development. I mean, if we make clear about the growth and the development, that's very different things. I mean, growth means GDP only, but development is many dimensions. You can unify the economic growth and social progress, social development anyway. So, social growth, my understanding is that the key factors is employment. I think that if we look at the development dimensions, you can say that inequality, labor market, and education, or other social security system is mostly related to the employment. So I think maybe would you please focusing on the jobs or on employment, which is mentioned that's key meaning of social growth. This is my first point. The second is, this year the World Bank's report publishes a research report means jobs. It mentions that the basic idea is development through jobs. That means jobs is very important for all development, not only growth. Because in the past time we think that job or employment is a result of growth, but today we can see that jobs is a development process. So I think this is very important, and I think that's also very useful of new concepts for Chinese concepts. This is my one comments. Second is you mentioned that two sides for social growth. One is demand led, and the second is supply led. I mean, it's a different situation between Germany and China. My understanding is China social growth are like, or economic growth means supply, like, because cheap labor or cheap land. I mean, the Chinese, in the past 30 years, high growth basically depends on the cheap urbanization and the cheap industrialization. Germany is demand because you have a very big, outside market. So export-led growth is a very big factor in recent years. So I think maybe we can take some comparative study between Germany and Chinese situation. And I think maybe in the future, the two countries are facing the same problems. I mean, they need to change their model of growth. I mean, for China, the key here, from perspective of social growth, means the upgrade industrialization. And Germany has developed much more service sector. For both are very related to the higher employment and jobs, which related to your key conception of what means social growth. Thank you.
Соболев, институт экономики. Как я понял, роль профсоюзов упала в ходе последних изменений. реформ в Германии. Только вот у меня в этой связи два вопроса. Вот, что замещает профсоюзы вот, в социальной защите? Какие институты? Или вообще ничего не замещает? И второй вопрос. Изменилась ли роль производственных советов в корпорации? Вот тоже вот за последнее время. Ну, спасибо.
Извините за мой вопрос, я, наверное, была в это время очень занята проблемами России, но все-таки я хотела бы уточнить, что конкретно понимается под реформами 2003 года.
Okay.
Okay.
Сейчас в Германии из 16 земель только 3 земли являются донорами, а 13 являются реципиентами. Количество стран, которые находятся на дотации федерального бюджета, постоянно растет. Это порождает определенное социальное напряжение уже между странами, между землями. Призывает некоторые руководители, в частности Баварии, Хессен и Нидерсаксен, пересмотреть существующую федеральную модель немецкого устройства. И одновременно нарастают противоречия в Европейском Союзе. Вот как противоречия, собственно, Германии, то есть в какой-то мере могут продуцировать углубление противоречий в самом Европейском Союзе.
Okay. Perhaps the most direct question first, 2000. When I'm talking about the reforms of 2003, I mean the package of reforms which were introduced by the Social Democrat Green Coalition government in 2003-2005. Basically labor market reforms, the system of unemployment insurance was changed. People had to accept jobs even if they did not really fit their qualification. The welfare system and the long-term unemployment benefit system was merged. Later on, there was added pension age, retirement age was increased from 65 to 67, things like that. The whole package was later called Agenda 2010, and it was now just this 1 week ago was the 10th anniversary, and that was a huge debate in Germany again about this. Perhaps briefly to your question about trade unions, what did replace the trade unions as in Germany as a social protection? Well, to some extent, there is now a much more debate about a legal minimum wage. We have actually introduced a minimum wage in some sectors, and it's quite possible that after the next election we will have a general legal minimum wage. There are different concepts by different political forces, but even the conservatives meanwhile accept that there should be a minimum wage. The works councils, well, actually I'm not an expert on this, perhaps you could answer the question, but I think they were very important all the time in big enterprises. Of course, in small service sector enterprises, there might often there not be any workers' councils anyway. But I don't know if this role has changed dramatically over the last decade or so. Regarding your question, well, there is some theory that Germans are more concerned about what they call a transfer union in Europe, meaning direct payments from one member state to the other, because of the German system of Länderfinanzausgleich, what we call it, the payment system between better off German Länder, Bundesländer, member states of the German Federation, so to speak, Federal Republic. And of course, the system is at the moment a little bit lopsided because there are only 3 countries which are net donors and the other are all the recipients. But on the other hand, I think it's to some extent it's exaggerated. It's not such a big problem. Actually, those countries who are now complaining have been receivers for decades. In the 50s, 60s, Bavaria received a lot of funds from North Rhine-Westphalia, which at that time was the industrial powerhouse of Germany with the coal and steel industry. Only with the decline of coal and steel and the rise of other industries which were located in Bavaria, partly with a lot of federal assistance like armaments industry, for instance, that made Bavaria rich, and now it's complaining. Okay. Now come to your question. Of course, that is theoretically the more problematic question. What is the relationship between jobs and growth? Of course, if you have growth, at least if you have growth above a certain threshold, which is given by the average productivity increase, you will have additional employment. If you have, let's say, some German economists of the conservative side consider the key effect of the German reforms that this threshold has been lowered in Germany. That is also visible in the productivity figures. If you reduce average productivity growth, of course, the same amount of GDP increase will cause more employment. And that you can sell as a success if you want to create more jobs. But it really does not create more wealth. It's actually, it would be much better if we could increase more jobs with higher productivity of every job, of every person employed. That would, of course, even create a higher GDP and accelerate growth. How do you do that? Well, one thing, in China, perhaps you have still some leeway to increase productivity in industry when you're thinking about upgrading your manufacturing sector. In Germany, we are upgrading our manufacturing sector all the time. I think this is, you can see in the figures I presented. That is why productivity growth in the German manufacturing sector is still quite good. It's not extremely good, it's probably not as high as in China, because we are already on the productivity frontier, so to speak. It's much harder to increase productivity from a level already achieved in Germany than from a productivity level like in China or so. But still, it's, that is the secret behind the strong role of German manufacturing. But in terms of employment, as I showed, employment, you cannot achieve full employment by expanding manufacturing, because who should buy all that stuff when you have an ever-increasing productivity in this sector? So the key question is, where do the jobs go, or where do the jobs come from? And I think they can only come from sectors which are satisfying needs which are not yet satisfied, and the manufacturing needs are to a large extent satisfied. Actually, you need a lot of advertising to sell all that stuff, while health, care, education, people would like to have some more, you wouldn't need to advertise for it. But you have to get the jobs in the sectors where the needs are. And that is a problem if the jobs go there where the money is. And if those who have the needs don't have the money, that's why you have, on the other hand, have to this kind of redistribution. Thank you.
Very fast.
Ну, невозможно не вопрос, который у меня возник, исходя из вашей речи. Вот лично к вам. Я хотела бы уточнить, а как вы относитесь к политике Ангелы Меркель и всего, что сейчас происходит, в том числе и кипрский вопрос?
Well, it's possibly not a surprise since I'm working with a foundation close to the Social Democratic Party, which is in opposition, that I'm not a big fan of Angela Merkel's policies. Also, I have unfortunately to say that I'm not convinced that the Social Democratic Party in power would do it a lot different. Actually, they have been in a coalition government with Angela Merkel for several years too. But Angela Merkel is a very competent, consensus-oriented politician. So when she thinks that the population is moving towards a certain position, she will adjust. So she didn't want a minimum wage in the beginning. Now she's talking about somewhat watered down minimum wage. She wanted to go on with nuclear power. After Fukushima, she accelerated the German exit from nuclear power. So she is quite clever in this regard. What about Cyprus? Well, from my point of view, the German policy towards the euro crisis was completely wrong from the beginning. I think we are to a large extent responsible for everything what happened. We should have allowed right from the beginning that the ECB would buy government bonds. If we had done so in 2010, but not waiting until Draghi said so in 2011, we would have avoided the debt crisis probably completely. The same is true if we would have accepted a joint liability like Eurobonds or something like that. So it was basically Germany which wanted to keep the ECB out of that thing, and because Germany are always much concerned about inflation and central bank independence and so on, but I think it's completely wrong. Regarding Cyprus, I think the decision to force the Cyprus savers to finance the banks directly, that this is like the private sector involvement in the Greek case. I think there's one element of what I think is good, that is basically the wealth owners must share into must part be of the burden sharing. But on the other hand, you cannot do it that way, because in the Greek case, you declared every government bond in the Eurozone as a risky asset, and with the subsequent problems for the other risky countries. And now you are declaring every bank in the Eurozone as a risky bank. So people will probably transfer their money out of the banks to wherever they think it's safe. And this cannot be the solution. I think we are ruining our system. The wealth owners must be taken into the calculation, probably by a wealth levy, by higher taxes on inheritance and assets and so on, a wealth tax, but not by focusing on certain specific parts of the assets, because this is just shifting the risk perception between different classes of assets. In the Cyprus case in particular, I think if you want the Cyprus savers to share the burden, they should have transformed their deposits into equity. So they would have kind of action capital of the banks.